Y'all, I am so excited today. Today, we're talking about going out on your own and starting your own brokerage. And one of the reasons that I'm so excited is because I have somebody that I very much adore, and I'm proud to call my friend and fellow broker, Karin Thomas. And
Yes.
Karen's here in the Austin area, and she's a mom of four. And of course, she's got a husband that I'm sure adores her dear.
You don't stay
And
married for 30 years unless you feel adored, I would hope.
that would make sense. Karen's also an avid animal lover like me, and she likes drama just about as much as me. So we share that. We don't mind turning on the TV, but we certainly don't want it in our own lives if we can avoid it. Drama is all about opening your own brokerage and going out on your own. It's like after being with a company for probably an extended period of time, you get comfortable in it. And what really motivated you to say, hey, my name's Karin Thomas, and I need to open a brokerage and do my own thing and put my own spin on it?
Mhm. I think that personally, it's how I've always approached real estate, which is, I guess I shouldn't name brokerages. I don't know. People can probably
Like,
figure it out. But you start with a brokerage and you really don't know what you're doing. And so you're looking for guidance and you're looking for that broker to really hold your hand. And you
right,
have no idea what you don't know. And it's a lot. And I feel like from the moment I started, a lot of the things that people were telling me did not make sense for me. And I just knew it. They were like, this is the only way that you can succeed in this business. And then they give you a checklist.
right,
And I just said to myself, if I have to do this to be successful, I never will be. Like, this won't work for me. And I so I didn't give up, but I just started pushing back on, is this really the only way? Is
right.
this really what I have to do to be successful? And
What are you talking about? Are you like talking
well,
about getting up and calling people for four
yeah,
hours every day,
sure.
or dressing a
Exactly.
certain way and walking a certain way and talking?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a lot of tattoos and I
Which
thought
we love in
that would
Austin,
be a
Texas.
problem. I know, right? Dumb, nobody cares, and I had a lot of people, yeah, it's the cold calling and the door knocking, and I'm not gonna criticize what another agent chooses to do to be successful unless it's unethical or
Right,
illegal, but I just knew that style wasn't gonna work for me. So I just kept putting it out there to people that I trust and just say, "Is this true? Do I have to do these things to be successful?" And the people who started to know me were like, "No, that's not gonna work for you. You're gonna have to do something different." And then I started leaning into the things I was more comfortable doing. And I didn't find a lot of value in my brokerage because they were presenting a way that I'm sure works for a lot of their agents, but they were branding it as the way. And it just wasn't a good fit for my personality. And I wanted to believe I could do it in a way that was really authentic. So I think that
that's the key
ties
word.
yeah, I think that
Y
ties in exactly to your question, is that's why I felt like becoming a broker for that exact reason, just to do it differently and to do it my own way.
and to put your spin on something even bigger than just you, so it's not
Mhm.
you just different than everybody else at the same marker name that's out there, but
Yeah.
it's you from start to finish, from front door to closing, it's got the Karen stamp on
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
it. Any key factors that led to your decision other than the aspect of just wanting to do your own thing? Was it there's a lot of people that are motivated by commission. They think that going out on their own, they're going to make so much more money, or is there in time, or is it any more than just putting that whole in
I think
or that
for
mission
me,
column?
yeah, I think the commission is like a draw for most people, but my current brokerage, that's not too much of an issue. Honestly,
Yeah.
it'll probably cost me more to be on my own, but I'm fine with that. And I think just I didn't want anything to limit me. So I had my eye on becoming a broker from day one. Like when
Right.
I decided I was going to stay being a realtor, when I decided, okay, this is going to work for me, I can do it in my own way, then I was like, next step, broker. I
Yep.
just knew I was going to do that.
And you had that goal for a while. And that,
First year, and it was just a matter of checking the boxes, and as soon as I could qualify, I did it. Yeah.
yeah, that was probably the best thing that I ever did was go ahead and make that leap and just do
Mhm.
it and get that. And it just creates that autonomy for yourself. So think back as you started to transition and really becoming a broker owner and running things, everything falls on your shoulders. So it's all about you. You're going to succeed or you're going to fail
Mhm.
on your issues. What are some of the challenges that you're facing as you go to transition from just an agent with a broker? And even though you've been, I want to be clear here because you are a broker now. And so you've
Mhm.
been a broker associate in Texas for Texas
Correct.
licensing. But at the same time, you do answer to a broker when you
Mhm.
work at another firm. What are some of the challenges that you've faced as you've worked on transitioning over to your own
I think that are you just asking in terms of, like, the logistics of switching?
logistic
Or
set, realizing that you've got to do everything to keep the doors open, or
I
you've
think
got the
that is a great question.
technology.
Yeah, I think that the mindset of not having anyone that I can lean on in terms of who's the boss, who's ultimately going to take responsibility, that doesn't feel daunting for me as a broker associate. I think that's the safety piece. I think even in my own self, I have a lot of confidence in myself in terms of my ability to find out the best information at the time, and I try to keep my finger on the pulse of that at all times. But when it comes to overseeing other agents, I see how loosey goosey a lot of agents play it, and how a lot of brokers don't oversee that
Right.
much. And that, talk about not my style. That cannot be my style because I believe so much in, like,
You're too
education
compliance
and broker excellence and realtor excellence and being at the highest level, just not as a fiduciary, but knowing your contracts inside and out and all that kind of stuff.
right.
So,
You're very compliance heavy and
yeah.
you have surrounded yourself with people who have been a broker for a while. And, we have a lot of friends in common, which is really fun because you and I go to some of the same people when you want a spin of, okay, this is how I interpret it. How would you interpret it? And
Hmm.
play that both sides of the fence to make sure that you're coming to the best end result, really.
Yeah. And I think that there has to be a level of humility there too, because we're all people. I think I am a person, I don't think my ego needs to be right, but I feel a deep sense that I have a responsibility to be as right as I possibly can be. But I'm a person, so I'm gonna get it wrong sometimes.
And
So
that's why we surround ourselves with those people
yeah.
to help us.
Yeah, definitely. And I think on your page, like your education page, you learn the way that people talk and the way that people commit themselves. And so it's in some ways it's just a good litmus test for understanding kind of the people that you want in your orbit by how they talk about it and how seriously they take it.
Yeah, because you start looking at agents in a different way and you start thinking, okay, what questions do they ask? What comments do they make? Do I want this as
Hmm.
representation even before you ever talk to them
Yes. Yeah.
about
Yeah.
potentially working with you? Because when your name's on the line and it's your butt
Yeah.
that's really on the line, it does give you a different way to really handle and focus on things.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely.
And I know by knowing you, you're not going to be one of those loosey goosey brokers. You're going to make sure your people know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
And you're going to make sure that they do the right thing. And
Hmm.
it takes commitment. I'm so glad you're doing this. It so makes me happy. Anything about setting up the brokerage that's been overwhelming?
I think a lot of what's overwhelming is just the ticky tacky stuff. Just when you're on your own, when you're a sole broker, you don't have to have insurance. But again, I'm a safety person. So obviously I'm going to do that. So it's like just navigating those bits and bops and all the different systems that aren't really interlinked. Like I actually thought about yesterday as I'm like going through this laundry list of like little things, boxes that I need to check to make sure is all buttoned up. And I just thought, why isn't there a guide for this? I'm going to write a guide of how to do this and all the millions of things that you need to think about because it doesn't exist. Something like that, or just
I
kind of have to
started
reinvent
one
the wheel.
I started one years ago at a happy hour. It wasn't a happy hour, it was a party at a friend's house, and I think yeah, that's what it was, and a mutual friend of ours, and I'm not gonna say their names just in case they don't want anybody to know this. I started their plan of setting up their brokerage and everything they had to do on a cocktail napkin.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I did number 1, 2, 3, and then I took that from memory and tried to put it all out so that when it came time to helping other people do that, I had it all laid out. And having done it before, I've opened a couple of brokerages, so I have that kind of down in my head, but it's everything from trying to pick a website to the best compliance program and who's going to give me the best deal on insurance and
Hmm.
do I want a permanent office? Where if I don't, where do I want my office address to be?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's a lot that kind of goes in there. And
Yeah. That, which is so interesting, I think. It's just, I'm fascinated by how other brokers are doing it too, because again, you're going to learn thing or find bits and pieces of things. Like I've certainly in my business, I am doing things that other realtors do. I'm just doing it in my way.
right.
And so I very much feel like I'm doing the same thing as like moving into brokerage, just figuring out those little details that are just like, oh, that would work for me or that would work for me. I like that. But in terms of just the logistics, it just seems one hand doesn't talk to the other hand. So it seems like a system where you should be able to just change it one place. And that's not how the system works. It's 1,000 places. So I think just that, but that's similar to switching brokerages, honestly, those sort of logistical things.
And it's going to be really cool with you having launched this brokerage because the agents that are going to be working with you will, in fact, be an extension of that whole Karin Thomas field.
That's what I
And
hope. So yeah,
yeah,
that's my dream for sure.
I think that will be a really cool thing to even watch. And some of the best brokerages are some of the independent ones,
Yeah.
is you're able to turn on a dime and you're able to really look at that customer and client experiences, each mutually exclusive, but you're able to make it better for them, which
Mhm.
I,
Yeah.
so there are brokers out there who just want to associate with another company and they never want to take the leap of faith, if we call it that, or some people say the headache of owning a brokerage. It's whatever you think it's going to be is what it's going to be.
Mhm.
But what advice would you have for someone who's really looking and thinking that I really like Karen. I really think that I can do and what she's doing in my own neck of the woods and really put a spin on it because I'm tired of putting on the jacket and hiding a tattoo or whatever and just really just be who you are because that's
Yeah.
what people are attracted to.
I think that is, you just said it. Like you took the words out of my mouth. It's just like, I think that people should try it because why not? Like, even if it costs a little bit more money, I just feel like I'm betting on myself, you know?
Right.
So that should always feel good. That should always be a good motivator. And I think for me, my professional life kind of happened on accident because I was just at a stage in my life where I was primarily a stay at home mom, but had all this jack of all trades skills where I'd learned so much and I'd run my husband's business and I'd blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, why can't I do something for myself? And I had no idea what real estate was, but my best friend is a real estate broker. And I just said, what do you think of this? And she said, 9 times out of 10, when somebody asks me this question, I say, don't do it, you know? And she said, you got the 1 out of 10. I think you should do it. And I think that having people invest in me, that sort of faith. And I think I consider you to be one of those people where it's just, you didn't know me from Joe. And yet you, for whatever reason, professionally and in a friendship way, we were just like attracted in philosophically.
Absolutely.
And I think sometimes it's partly that. It's just like saying, this person believes in me. So why am I cutting myself short? Like, why don't I just try it? What's the harm? So yeah, that's it. And I think things like that that hold you back is a big problem for all of us, including myself, just like that inner self doubt. So you have to be like,
We
what's the
all
worst that
have.
can yeah. So but you have to say, what's the worst that can happen? You
I
know?
mean, yeah, my mom has always taught us, if you don't like your choice, choose again.
Yeah.
If it
Yeah.
doesn't work,
It's
mm,
not the end of the
get
world.
something else. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
As long as you've got choices, you can make another one. At the same time, it does give you some freedom to express yourself, put your own really design on something, and maybe really influence people through the real estate experience to not only feel like they were better represented, understand the process better, and
Mm,
feel like they were heard.
yeah. Yeah. I think that like you, I feel like I'm almost first a teacher in just the person that I am. And I think that is
I
what
can see
makes
that.
me a really great realtor and representative for buyers and sellers is because I teach people my knowledge. I teach them what I know to help them buy or sell their home. And
Yeah, that
I feel like, go ahead.
you've got the knowledge though. You have to cannot forget that you have the knowledge and you have this burning desire to learn and to
Yeah,
tackle things that you don't know. So you have to accomplish that before you can teach that. And don't, cut yourself short there because you've really worked to make sure that you can talk and answer questions and help guide people
I think
in
that's
a
true.
way that
Yes.
a lot of agents don't.
Yeah.
They get their license, they go do 18 hours in Texas because that's the mandatory statutory minimum.
Oh, yeah, which is way too low.
Right, it is.
I think with myself, I feel like always passionately about sharing information with agents too, with agents, with buyers and sellers, with other brokers. What do you know? What do I know? And that it should be a free flow of communication. And I think that it does sometimes feel risky. And I think we touched on this. Like you put yourself out there when you're like answering a question. Sometimes you're going to get it wrong or you're going to miss a detail that's important. So you have to be willing to take that risk every time, putting yourself out there. What do I think I know? I feel so passionately about competency and education that in a way, it was just like the natural next thing.
When are we gonna get you to teach?
Coming up. I think it's limitless now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of the most important lessons that we all learn, we can use, and whether they're in our real estate transactions or in life dealing with real estate to help teach other people because learning in the classroom is a lot better than taking a field trip where you cut half your hand off or finger off or whatever. But it does come in because when you seek advice of those who have done whatever it is that you're looking to do, and in your case, you had conversations when you were starting to set up a brokerage
Yeah.
and you made that plan and pulled on people who'd been there before so that you could save some of those field trips.
I think if I were to pinpoint something in our industry that's very problematic, I would say it's brokers who aren't as engaged as they need to be. And I think that you have to have that when you're starting. And I think a lot of agents don't have it.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's that. I think there's also agents who get their license and they say, I don't need any help. I know it all. And that they don't actually have the foundation. It's like,
Sure.
and sometimes it gets tiring trying to argue with someone of no, that you can't do that.
I know. Yeah.
That's straight.
And it's funny because I have sometimes agents will call me and ask questions. And I had one conversation that was so funny that it's not that funny, but a buyer's agent in a bind trying to figure out a way to get her client out of the contract. And I said, she made a couple suggestions. I said, no, you're past that deadline. You're past that deadline. And then I said, there's more than 40 ways to get out of this contract. If it were me, I would go through each way. If it wasn't an obvious way, I'd just go through each way through the entire contract and just make sure with a fine tooth comb I hadn't missed any contingency. And that's worked for me before. And she's, what are all the ways? And I said, oh, that's contracts training. That's what you should have been and continue to be doing.
Right.
Do you have 5 hours? So I can, so anyway, yeah.
Exactly. It's that foundation that you have to do that so that you can go back and logically think. And it's also being able to critically think about, okay, this is the situation. Where do we pivot to go from here to there if you don't want to stay in that contract?
Yeah.
But you
But
have to have the education well before you have to apply it.
yes. And I think I took a really excellent class, broker responsibility. It's one of the best classes I've taken. And boy, that was really eye-opening. That, like, I feel like that's a class I need to take. I'm glad it's a requirement for renewing, and I feel like I need to take it 12 more times. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. And I teach it. And every time I
Oh, I know.
teach it, I get the whole aspect of, I get a lot out of teaching because I get different people's perspectives on things.
Yeah. Yes, for
And
sure.
I really think that should be an agent responsibility class because I
Mhm.
think everybody should have to, I think they should tack 6 more hours on everybody's license and say, you have to take this.
I think it would be invaluable for people to have that class. It would have been me. Like it was funny because there was all these disclaimers before the class. Unless you have a corporate broker's license, you don't have to take this, or you're supervising agents. Just so you know, you don't have to take this. And I was like, after I got to the end, I'm just like, I agree 100%. This should be required education. I wish I'd taken it years ago, and I will be taking it many more times. You'll see me in class for sure.
It's fun class because especially when you have agents that don't have any desire to go in and be a broker and they're looking for an extra class, or maybe they run a team or a group and they sit there and go, I didn't know this. What do you mean you didn't know this?
Yeah.
And they say, no, I didn't know this, or I'd forgotten this, or
Mhm.
this. Always refreshing, and it's full of great information. So
And you get people in there are typically more experienced, which again, I think would be really valuable for new agents, but that does really create some really rich conversations with people who have a lot of years under their belt.
yeah, some of the newer agents who have taken it have really benefited by just sitting back and listening
Oh,
and
yeah.
hearing the stories, because some people are like, oh my gosh, I'm really in this crazy career. What is that?
I've
So
always considered myself a low risk gal too, but apparently I'm not.
well, we all like different flavored donuts, don't we? We just
Yeah.
take this all to make it
Yeah.
happen. So if you were going back and you were going to start this process all over again, about, we could even include getting your broker's license
Mhm.
and deciding to go out on your own, because those are both two incredibly huge milestones for any practitioner. Would
Yeah.
you actually do anything differently, or would you have any words of wisdom for someone who's following in your footsteps? Maybe they just got their license, maybe they've been licensed 30 years and are just thinking, hey,
Mhm.
maybe this brokerage that I'm with isn't the perfect fit and I can't find anything better. So I'm going to go do my own thing.
I think that broker responsibility class I wish I had taken that sooner. Way
Okay.
before I even did my broker's license. I would say that getting your broker's license, it should almost be a requirement. I think anybody in the industry would benefit from doing that. And so I would just say, just plan on it. Once you hit that 5-year mark and you've got the transaction to do it, just do it. It's actually not even that hard. It should be harder.
Okay. Now,
Um,
5 years and stuff, you're talking about Texas specific.
I am.
And
I'm
some
talking
other
about
people,
Texas.
some other places, it's not so hard, but we have a
Yeah.
little bit harder here.
Yes. So I've heard it's one of the more challenging places to get a broker's
It
license.
is.
Yeah. In my opinion, the bar should be higher, but
I agree.
yeah.
Can I get behind you and you go fix that in our real estate systems?
Yeah. Okay. Let's do it.
Okay. I'll champion you
Uh,
on.
okay. And then I think as far as starting a brokerage, I think it's, I do think it's perfectly fine for people who it's just not their forte, right? They don't, for whatever reason, perfectly fine. You could be an excellent agent or associate broker. But I feel like if you had that spark or that inkling, if I were to change it, I would have just ripped off the Band-Aid faster, just gotten my stuff, my ducks in a row
Right.
faster. Yeah, and just made it happen. Because I also think I'm one of those people who tries to get involved and I don't want to step on anyone's toes or hurt anybody, all that kind of stuff. And I
Right.
just feel like just rip the Band-Aid off and do it. If you have the inkling, just push forward because I feel like it's not going to be perfect. So it is a very much fail forward thing where there's no way I can know everything I need to know before I do it. So at a certain point, I just had to ask myself, are you doing this or not? And the answer was, you're doing this. And then it's just it's not that big of a deal to make the leap. It's just feels so overwhelming. And you just have to get your ducks in a row as good as you can and rip the Band-Aid off as fast as you can. That's my opinion. I just think don't wait. Just like,
Yeah.
even if you just venture out on your own without taking agents, if you have an inkling to do it, just do it because there's a lot of people out there. There's a good community of support for just what I'm doing.
I'm glad. I'm happy.
I know.
I'm
Well,
everything.
to get my
Hey,
broker's license for a while.
yes, because you see things in people when you're around them and you're teaching. And I want everybody to get their broker's license. Do not get me wrong.
Hmm.
But at the same time, things in certain people that you're like, you want to push and you want to say, why aren't you here? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you?
Hmm.
Because it's if I'm buying into your abilities, why aren't you?
Yeah. Yes. Yep. Yep.
It,
Yep.
and then I just basically said, shut up, Robbie. Quit asking her. Just, she'll get it done. And you did. And, I think it's awesome. And I love the fact that you've gone and you're now doing your own brokerage and you're putting your own mark instead of trying to adapt and to fit to someone
Yeah.
else's.
And I think that has served me well to this point, just trying my own thing. And I feel like I just did a couple key things that were so on brand for me, just on brand for my personality and the personality that I am. And it really did attract the right people to be my clients. And that's such a gift. And it's so empowering that I'm just like, yeah, let's keep going on this train. Why not?
Absolutely. I can think of many bottles of champagne we can start drinking to all of the success. And I'm kind of anything with you, I'm there for. But thanks for having this conversation with me. And if some of the folks listening wanted to reach out to you about real estate in Austin, or even tips on setting up their own brokerage or a little road better for them, what's the best way for them to contact you?
Yes, you can email me at my brokerage is called Hey Buddy Home.
Hey, buddy.
Hey buddy.
I love that.
So thank you. And yeah, heybuddyhomes.com and you can reach out via email hey at heybuddyhomes.com. Yeah, that's how you can get a hold of me. And if you're an agent who's just exploring other things and like wanting to understand the process of it, I'd love to talk to you. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, I saw that logo earlier today and I was like, that's pretty cool.
Thank
But
you.
hey, no, I'm glad. And we're also going to put Karen's contact information in the show notes below. So feel free to reach out to her. And until next time, we'll see ya.
Thank you, Robbie.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in. We're dropping new episodes every Sunday at noon Central Standard Time. We'd love your support for The Real Tea with Robbie English. By giving this video a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel, it would really help us out. Be sure and share it with your colleagues and friends. And until next time, we hope you have a profitable and productive week. Until next time, we hope you have a profitable and productive week.